Welcome to this webinar, Apex with Artificial Intelligence, a new landscape for application development. I'm Ettore Volpicelli, Developer Marketing Director here at Oracle for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Today we are going to spend about 90 minutes together talking about the new developer productivity feature that are available on Oracle Apex and how from a simple use case till the approach with artificial intelligence. Now Apex, it's literally a platform that can give you a developer the boost to deploy new application, new innovative application. So today is about innovation and how you can leverage it. But let's go ahead. I want that this will be a session with engagement with our speaker, with our panelists. So please use our public Slack channel on top of course, of the Q&A functionality here on Zoom. But if you want also to have a conversation after the event, if you are watching this on demand, you can get it through this channel on Slack. All the links that you see here will be shared also into a thank you mail after the event. Within this, because you are participating to this event, if you are watching it live, you have the possibility to create an Oracle Cloud free tier account that include always free services plus services that you can use for 30 days with the amount that we are going to provide you. And the promo that we are going to activate for you give you the chance to get $200 in credits, in Oracle Cloud credits, more than the standard. So you will get $500, and the activation link as well will come into the thank you email. But let's see. So who actually will be with us today with you? We have Sonia Meyer and Jason Hans that will present to us a series of content demo, and it will be a nice walkthrough. Then we have two panelists, Lajos Arces and Sidenurs, that will support us for the Q&A that will be answered live. So thank you so much. And then guys, over to you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'll share my screen. Today, we're going to talk about the Oracle Apex, low-code application platform development, also known as LCAP. And today, this will be an Oracle Apex overview with Oracle Cloud AI. That's artificial intelligence. Now, the whole demo is not going to be about AI. The last half will be more AI-centric, but we're going to start off with an overview and primer of what Oracle Apex is all about. I'm going to show you an Apex application. We're going to then build that application, and then I'm going to make it even fancier. And then we're going to segue into the whole use of AI in Oracle Cloud to make this app even more powerful and show you how that new landscape is expanded with Apex and AI. My name is Jason Haynes. I'm coming to you from Florida, so that's over in North America. And I'm a senior principal product manager for Oracle Apex. I've been with with Oracle for about 5 years, but I've been using Apex for about 17 years now. I used to be a Java and a .NET developer for, in a previous life and doing all kinds of different software engineering projects. But then I was introduced to the Oracle stack on Oracle database with Oracle Apex. And back then it was known as Application Express, but it's been since rebranded as Oracle Apex. And the reality is I really never have looked back, right? This whole no compilation, no code generation, all these robust features of Oracle Apex using Oracle database just makes it a tremendous value of my time, even as an engineer and as a developer interpreting requirements from customers. So it allows me to concentrate more on that. So from there, I want to move on to talking about this website, apex.oracle.com. So if you don't take anything else away from this conversation, go to apex.oracle.com so you can take a look at all the content we have there. This is what the website looks like. You can start for free today. This website actually jumps you into an instance of Apex where you can create a free workspace and start experimenting or developing apps today. You can also use the what's new down here, to start for free. and actually go to Oracle Cloud and create a tenancy there, maybe on always free or an Apex service. And you can create a workspace in the Apex instance you create from there to start developing on your own instance as well. Understand also, Apex can be downloaded and used on your own on-premises installation of Oracle Apex as well. So you really have 3 different options overall for where you can use Apex. But what's really cool, and what I'm really proud and excited to tell everyone on the call about, is we just released the latest edition and version of Apex, known as Apex 23.2. So on our website here, you can actually look at it, see what's new. There's a whole long list of new features. We have a whole announcement surrounding it. And when you actually sign in, once you've got your workspace on this instance, you will be using that latest and greatest version of Apex. Coming back here to the slideshow. This is the release history over the last 5 years of Apex. Now, Apex has been around for about 20 years. 2004 marked the release of Apex, known back then as a different name, in release 1.5. In 2018, we switched the numbering of the versions up to the year dot release. We are currently on a twice-a-year release cycle, so that's spring and fall. So Apex 18.1 came out in 2018 in the spring, and .2 came out in the fall of that year. And you see in bold some very highlighted marquee features, and some of which I'm going to demonstrate very quickly as we build our application that is going to be leveraged with AI as we continue talking about all the different features and the uses of Apex. There are a lot of important features here, and you see this highlighted one on the right highlights Apex 23.2, which is now available today. And it's got a new big feature, including visual workflow. So it's that whole drag and drop with a bunch of different things on your screen, so you can configure them as part of a workflow in your application, all declarative. So very, very low code, if not no code at all for most use cases. And we introduce our new feature of working copy. Working copy has to do with when a developer is working on a single instance and they can create a working copy and work on that working copy until they're ready to then merge back their changes to the main copy. This also supports the ability for multiple developers to be working on the same app at the same time and not having to actually make sure everything is completed before you take that main copy and then use that with your source control or your pipeline for promoting apps to production. It's just a really neat feature. We also have the new version of Quick SQL available. That is now a feature of ORDS 23.3. So a lot of exciting new things on the horizon, and it just keeps getting better. So what that really means here is talking about the Apex roadmap, right? So over the last 18 months or so, these are some of the roadmap features we've been endeavoring towards on our new releases. And that's where we are right now. So we just released 23.2. We have the workflow engine with visual diagrams now available, and then push notifications are available, and also application search component in Oracle Database 23C free currently, hoping soon 23C will be available in the general public, to the general public in the coming year, I would say. But at the end of the day, all these features are coming with new each release of Apex. We're just very excited to be able to talk to you about them and be able to show you how to use some of them. And of course, mix in some AI features from Oracle Cloud as well.
And Jason, what is your your favorite feature of this new release?
Well, see, the whole idea with all these wonderful features is each one makes our job as a developer a lot easier, right? So if we look at some of this stuff, Sonia, visual workflow is really, really cool. The ability to create new workflows, it has to do with doing all those different steps, right? What happens when maybe a form is submitted and a new record is inserted? It might kick off a workflow where an email is sent, and then there's certain things that have to happen over maybe a period of time that can all be visually mapped out. And before this feature was made available in Apex 23.2, it was a very manual thing in Apex, right? The developer had to create all the tables, the developer had to create all the business logic, and then create a way to program it and configure it. All that was very time consuming. So with this new feature, it's a lot easier for the developer to focus on the business requirements.
Yeah, I just worked with it. It's amazing.
It absolutely is. I mean, even the working copy in 23.2, the whole ability for me to have one app that's, the main copy of the app, and then create a working copy and then make a couple edits. And then, how sometimes you're editing an application, you run it and you find out, oh, that doesn't look good, or, oh, maybe that generates an error. If I was working in an instance where other users were using that main copy, they wouldn't be bothered by my edits until I merged them up into that main copy, which is just a tremendous feature. And then in terms of source control and the ability to work with a pipeline to, push out to production, just amazing what you can do with this feature, because in the past it was a little bit more difficult, and now it would just make it a lot easier for developers to take a lot of these features up. Like even push notifications from 23.1, the PWA push notifications capability has always been there since it came out for browsers in the browser support spectrum. But to do it in Apex, you required a bunch of JavaScript, a bunch of code, maybe extra pages to control whether things were turned off and on, and all that is done automatically for you now. So an Apex developer just has to literally, choose a check mark to enable a feature, and it becomes available in that application. And of course, I can go on and on. Well, how about you, Sonia? Aside from the workflow, have you played with any of the other new features lately?
Oh, I'm just in the beginning of integrating all the AI capabilities. So it's amazing. So my last project was about together with the workflow, and yeah, I'm into that, and I love this workflow capabilities. We have a lot of customers asking for this. So yeah, great.
How long have you been using Apex, Sonia?
Oh, a couple of years, but I have a long history. So I started, to be honest, with COBOL.
Oh,
That was my
really?
first programming language.
Man, we're
Yeah.
really dating ourselves when we talk about things like COBOL, aren't we?
Oh, it was great. And then I moved over, to be honest, my first programming language at Oracle was VBCS, and then I moved over to Apex, and I love it.
Awesome. Okay, well, here's today's agenda of what I'm going to walk you through. So we're going to review what Apex is about. We're going to do a demonstration to show you that a particular application based on particular topic. A little bit of buzz around Apex, like stuff in the media, the news. What is the real big deal about Apex? And then why? Like, right? Why would anybody care about Apex? Further, I'm going to build that application I demonstrate for you. I'm going to build it from scratch and just show you how easy it is. And in fact, the features that are listed on this slide here, let me show you, go back to it. Some of these bolded features are specifically brought out into existence and use by doing this actual effort of building the application. So I'm excited to show you that, and just shows you the power of Apex overall. Then we'll talk a little bit about some more features of Apex, and then get into a demonstration of taking that same app and seeing it work with AI features from Oracle Cloud, and showing our where Apex is going to be going with our AI vision, right? Not actual AI vision, but we have a vision for the use of AI in Apex. I'm going to show you where we think that that's going to work really well. There's also some slides to talk about some training, a little bit more roadmap details. We have various community resources if you weren't aware, and of course, some customer highlights. So let's get started. So what is Oracle Apex, right? Apex is the world's most popular enterprise low-code application platform. Understand that really clearly. It's not just about taking a spreadsheet and building an app. That's really simple use case. It may be very common, but it's really, really just the tip of the iceberg. Really, if you're talking about even the mountain at what Apex is, the very tippy top of what you can do with Apex. Overall, Apex is about what you can do for your organization to standardize on a good-looking flow of application development for the user experience with various features that they expect to behave in a particular way, more consistency across the enterprise. You can build very large applications that scale with your service, with Oracle Database, and with the features of Oracle Cloud. But Apex enables you to build these scalable and secure enterprise apps with these world-class features. We call them page components overall, but you can do this 20 times faster with 100 times less code. Now, remember, I mentioned I used to be a Java and a .NET developer, so I used to spend a lot of my time in various IDEs or editors, editing code, hitting enter, putting a semicolon or a curly brace in the wrong place, and then compiling it to find out I've got an error. All those kinds of things don't happen with Apex. It's far more convenient for a developer to just drag and drop a component onto a page and then configuring it with declarative options. But other than that, Apex does deliver the most productive way to develop and deploy custom apps for use by any modern browser on any device. Now, like Sonia, we come from the time when we developed apps where we had to consider the device that was being used for those apps. We had to maybe do a desktop application. And then for mobile, we'd have to create a mobile app, maybe one for Android, maybe one for iOS, right? For Apple iPhones. And we had to concern ourselves with how they would behave and test them on all these devices. Well, with the standardization of browsers across the board, whether it's Safari, Chrome, Firefox, or in Microsoft Edge, the whole idea here is these Apex applications work pretty much seamlessly across all those different browsers. And the most important takeaway on that is anywhere Oracle database is licensed, you can use Apex for free. There's no additional cost for the number of users, apps, whatever, however you want to use Apex in that instance, it is for free. You don't have to pay any extra for the features of Apex in Oracle database. Now, to understand though, that Apex then would contribute to incurring consumption-based costs in terms of storage, right? The more apps you create, the more storage you need. If you start putting blobs in a database, you need more space, etc. And maybe even depending on what your apps are doing, we're not talking about AI yet, just talking about what queries are being run, how much data is being processed. That might drive up your OCPU needs in Oracle Cloud or your physical bare metal hardware requirements on that database, just like any other use of the database would require. So the last thing on this slide I want to point out, and this is mostly a European thing. Now, remember, I've been using Apex for a long time, and it used to be known as Application Express. And still the holdover from that is people use the abbreviation Apex, right? This is not Apex. This is Apex with a long A. And I know Sonia's going to laugh, but yeah, the whole phonetic here was started years ago talking about Apex with a long A. And that's our branding, right? Oracle Apex.
And don't forget about the uppercase, okay? It's always uppercase.
Yes. Everywhere you see APEX, when you're referring to Oracle Apex, it's always got to be uppercase, not a capital A, small PEX. Jason will see you online and he'll call you out for that.
Me too.
Yeah. So what I want to do now is I just want to show you what an Apex app looks like. We won't spend a lot of time on this, but I just want to call out some of the features because we're going to work on embellishing some of those features as we progress. So this is our website. I've already got a workspace. I could sign in, but to save time, I'm already signed into my workspace in another tab. So my workspace is called PM_demo, product manager demo. I have a bunch of applications already installed. When you create your own workspace, you could jump immediately to the gallery and you could install a bunch of these sample apps. In installing these sample apps, which would include the sample workflow and approvals and task sample app, you'll be able to then look under the hood as a developer and see how we put together these various sample apps. And that includes things having to do with like even sample charts. If you want to learn how to use a new sample chart like a Gantt and have no idea how to craft a query or set that up, you install this sample app, you edit it, you'll be able to see under the hood and how we put it together, and you could even tweak it and learn from it. So that's what's really cool about these sample apps. We have a few starter apps that ship with Apex, so you could install those as well and begin using them immediately. Beyond that, we are going to work with an application I've already got up and running that I want to show you what it looks like. And that one has to do with high schools. The whole idea here, just to give you a little background, is imagine you have this spreadsheet of data. This is an example of a CSV in Microsoft Excel, and this demonstrates the most common use case of people getting started with Apex. And that is, I have this data and I want to make a working app. I don't want to email this spreadsheet to all my users, have them make their edits, send it back to me, and then get out of sync with what version is up to date. I want to control the user interface and the user experience across the board for all my users based on this data. But more importantly, I want to create an application from this data is what my goal is going to be. And then when it comes to the AI aspect, I want to use it as a research tool. And then I want to use it as a tool to help me quickly do some other tasks that would be typical of a use case working around this kind of data set. And I'll elaborate on more as we go. But from that case, I'm going to run this application from within Apex. It's now opening a new tab, and this is what the user experience would be for this demo app. I'm logging in with my credentials, and this application looks pretty simple. I mean, I get it. It is a super simple example, and many people that have seen Apex before will say, oh, it looks like an Apex app, right? The reality here is we have a lot of core features going on demonstrated in this application. We have left side navigation. This is just a particular page where I have high level navigation, and I can navigate by clicking on menu items or on that icon. I'm now seeing a particular page that has 4 different page components. They are 4 different charts, but obviously we know as developers, these are based on a data set that's in the Oracle database currently, which means to get it to render anything at all in any component that's on an Apex page, a query must be involved, right? So that's what we're going to be talking a little bit about when it comes to AI later, is about those queries. How would you create a query with SQL if you don't know SQL, right? So think about that a little bit. But here we are talking about various page components and interactivity. That is all based on the way Apex works. It uses a responsive theme called universal theme. And if I were to resize my browser or load this same page on a mobile device, it would be scaled and readjusted based on that screen real estate. But more importantly, these are components on a page, and all of them can be configured by an Apex developer. But right now, I have my user hat on. I'm using this app as a user. If I navigate over to search, I could then collapse my menu. I am looking at two key components that are Apex features. On the left here, this is what we call faceted search. There are a bunch of different facets that are broken out and a bunch of statistics within the facets. All of this happens automatically and is computed based on how I interact with that tool on the left, which is then applied to the data set on the right in a report that we call a classic report. I can click on the column headings and sort by any one of these columns very easily as an end user. I see that there are 427 rows. That's what actually came from that spreadsheet I showed you in Excel. And there's just a lot of data here. But what faceted search allows me to do is quickly see I have 119 schools in Brooklyn. I click on that, it's immediately filtered down to 119. I have a search box. Maybe I can type a search phrase like King and press enter, and I see that there's one school in Brooklyn with King in the school name. I just use this app as a user very easily for a common use case. I can even reset this particular report and start over if I wanted to. There's even other features nestled in here, like showing a chart. I can show a pie chart. And of course, I can turn various features off and on. And that whole interactivity is what's presented at the user experience, which is really nice. But the best part of all of this is all of this can be delivered to your end users on top of your data with no code at all, right? The whole idea, in addition to being able to do custom app development with Apex at the enterprise scale, is also being able to do this with low code. And I'm going to show you how this can be achieved at the very, very bottom of that being no code at all. Moving forward, we have the report page. On the report page, this is another Apex component called an interactive report. It has a whole bunch of features that are similar to what the other report has, but I've also got the ability to use this actions button next to the search box. I just filtered for King. I see I'm filtered down to 8 rows, but I have the ability to go in the actions button and do other things. Like maybe I can remove columns. That advanced placement course is not needed. School sports not needed. I hit apply. The report's now reformatted. And as a user, I could then resave this report as my own private report. As a developer, I could save it as a public report so that when users come to this page, they have many choices of different reports because there are other features in here. We can do aggregation, computing. We can do highlighting of certain cells based on criteria. We can even create charts right here within this report data. But all of this rich functionality is delivered in this interactive report from Apex, and it can be delivered by the developer very easily for your users on top of that data. Moreover, this page has a create button, and you can see there's also edit icons that are on each row. So when I click on the create button, what happens here is I'm opening a new page. This is actually what's called a modal drawer page in Apex. And right now, very simply, it's just populated with a bunch of UI elements for data entry. I could type something new here and then hit create, and a new record would be created. What that means is this supports full CRUD functionality. That's create, report, update, and delete. And that is available from Apex with no code at all, just by creating an app or creating a form page on top of a particular data set. From there, I can actually edit any of these records and have that same form open with data now populated in those particular UI widgets. These are all data entry page items, and you can see data is populated from that data set. And as a developer, normally we would have to consider ourselves with, well, I'm working with Oracle database, I must have to write a query. I must have to do select something from whatever table based on what criteria, but it happens automatically and with no code in Apex out of the box with some of the features. From there, I also have a map page. And this map page has got a lot of different functionality built into it. In the past, if you wanted to add a map to an Apex application, you totally can do it. Just like with any other API that's out there today, if it's not available as a feature in Apex out of the box, you likely can just copy and paste a little bit of HTML, maybe some CSS, and some JavaScript into your pages on your Apex app, and then have that functionality brought to the surface within Apex. So this also goes for other third-party data as well. But what I'm showing you here is all of those high schools in New York City, in around the Manhattan Island, like the Empire State Building is probably right around here, plotted on a map based on latitude and longitude. And in the past, that was not an easy thing to do in Apex, but we made it easier. So back in the release of Apex 21.1, I believe, we made the map component a first class page component citizen in Apex. We just drag and drop it on the page, specify a couple values declaratively, and you get this rich map and all the functionality that it enables the users to play with no API key necessary, no additional costs. Any questions around that, Sonia? What do you think? Do you like the map feature?
Oh, I love it. The new feature is cool.
Yeah, it sure is. All right, so moving on. We just reviewed a simple app. I called out a few of these different features, right? Different page components. We're going to elaborate on that as time progresses here. So
yes,
the buzz
and
round.
thanks for the first part of the demo. It's the first demo or starting for the others as well. So, and please, what is now the buzz around Apex?
Let me tell you, the buzz around Apex is quite exciting. There are different business analysts that review what's going on in the market, what's going on with different competition and different ecosystems. And around low-code application development, Apex is recognized for, or Oracle's recognized because of Apex. And this particular analyst sent out a survey to over 1,000 respondents, and they all pretty much summarized their efforts in low-code and the space going forward over the next 18 to 24 months. And Oracle came out on top because of Apex. Different organizations chose Apex for its low-code features and the features that it made available in the low-code space, beating out Microsoft, Salesforce, ServiceNow, and other well-known competitors in the space. Now, we use the word competitor as they would, right? Who's the competition? I'm just going to be honest. I've been using Apex a long time. There's no competition for what you can do with Apex. Come on. But there are other companies that recognize Oracle and Apex even further than that. Although we're up there in terms of what they analyze as important, right? Maybe Apex does a whole bunch of things that is not similar to what Microsoft does or what other competitors do. But overall, Apex is in the upper right quadrant, and Oracle has ramped up its investment in Apex, and this is showing in the strength of features that make the product suitable for building enterprise mission-critical applications. And this is just another analyst firm named Omdia that was quoted saying that, just to give you a little bit of an idea of where we actually sit in the space. But this is probably even more exciting for me to brag about because of Oracle Cloud World over the last 2 years.
Yeah,
you know,
to interrupt you again, Jason, we had
Yeah.
so much huge crowded Apex area and sessions at the Cloud World. I delivered one as well, but
Yes, you did.
You were amazingly busy at the booth. I really would love to ask you, what was your impression from the Oracle Cloud World in Vegas this year?
Wow, it was much busier than the prior years, right? Since the pandemic has been, come and gone, things have definitely geared back up. It's definitely a lot more exciting to be at the conference like it is than it was just even last year. I mean, this main slide is from Larry Ellison's Q4 earnings calls just earlier this year, but this second smaller slide is literally a screenshot that Larry was sitting on stage talking about Apex again. And this generated so much buzz that after that session, our Oracle Apex booth on the exhibit floor got swamped with people. I mean, you would have thought that we were celebrities because everybody wanted to learn more about Apex and even the various features that Larry talked about with regards to Apex and AI and what we can do with it. But the other message here from Larry is that the productivity gains using Apex are, in his experience and assessment, a factor of 10, right? You can develop applications in 1/10 of the time or with 1/10 of the amount of people or at 1/10 of the cost. All these things do come together to save time and money overall. And we are actually building a lot of our applications that we offer to our customers using Apex moving forward, right? So in the past, a lot of this used to be Java programming, and now it's going to be new applications built with Apex, having to span not just healthcare with Cerner New Millennium, but with banking, retail, and hospitality use cases. All of these different use cases still apply to Apex like they did 5 and 10, 15 years ago. But now this recognition by our CTO, Larry Ellison, and the buzz around it at Cloud World is just showing how people are just so excited to be using Apex for all the different reasons that I, as a developer, can brag about and Sonia can brag about as well. And if you were to play with Apex for long enough and get good at it, you would see the fruit. You would see the evidence of this very, very quickly. But why Apex? Why does any developer care? And of course, my VPN just dropped. Sonia, remind me when I get to that last part to get back on.
Will do.
Thank you. So here we are. We're going to talk about why Apex at this point. So with a single slide, this rolls up a lot of what we just described. I showed you what an app looked like. I showed you the inside of Apex when we log into a workspace. That IDE is all in a web browser. There's nothing to install on the client. So IT departments love this because they don't have to maintain a Windows image or any other image with business software, including the tools necessary for developers to build Apex apps. They don't have to worry about the version of Java that's being deployed on the desktops. That's all a big win in many cases. But the key thing about Apex, as I hinted at before, we're not editing text files. All those choices, the declarative options for all these features on Apex pages, those are called app definitions, and they are stored as metadata in the Oracle database itself. What this means is we are not generating any code as you configure these different features of Apex. There's no code generation. It's all declarative. Now, that doesn't mean you're limited to the declarative features. As I hinted at before, if there was an API you wanted to use, maybe some custom JavaScript, all of that can still be used to leverage your features in your Apex apps that you're building. But we start with a lot of declarative features to save you a lot of time. The whole idea here is with Apex inside Oracle database, there is one request, one process that runs probably in the background of Oracle database, and then one response. So that amounts to zero latency data access to the data that is right there with Oracle database where Apex is installed. And this results in that super fast functionality, but we're not limited there. You can still use data outside of that Oracle database. But the message here is Apex is not a middle tier technology. Oracle Apex is actually a no-cost feature of Oracle database. There's an organization called Peak Solutions. They were approached and we decided that we wanted to have them do a time and motion study to compare a popular JavaScript framework platform called React. And React was going to be used up against low-code Apex to build an application that had a long list of features. This is a published study, and this React versus Apex effort produced a result with all the features being accomplished, but it took 38 times less time to do this in Apex than it did in React. That ultimately allowed them to use 20 times less code in Apex than required in React.js. So right there, the red highlights what is the improvement in using Apex in terms of time and cost savings. So it's a very big takeaway, because then we end up with this. I know Sonia really likes this this meme that we found online. It was surfaced a few months ago, but the message is clear. The whole idea of high code on the left, right? Maybe that's React, maybe that's using React. There's Angular. You see it all there in that cart that one guy is carrying or pushing, compared to the guy on the right showing Apex. That's all he needs, right? And that's
And I love
literally
it simple, simple is
yeah,
power.
I mean, we don't have to worry about keeping up with all the latest and greatest Java, the Mongo, the React, the Angular. We don't even care as Apex developers. It's just we have a business need, we have requirements, we just go out and build it. And we're using Apex with far less technology to touch. And I'm sure you really appreciate that in more ways than one, coming from your COBOL days, right, Sonia? You don't have to look at the documentation. I mean, I learned JavaScript. I'm self-taught in the mid 90s. It was probably the thickest book I owned, and it was always on my lap, and I was always flipping through pages to try to figure out how to do things. With Apex, we don't worry about 99% of that stuff anymore. The 30,000 foot view of Apex and everything we talked about so far is this summary slide, in that it doesn't matter what persona you are. You could be a citizen developer, just like a person who's never developed before, and you've been given Excel, right? You figure out columns and rows, you figure out numbers versus strings, you figure all that stuff out. That makes you a citizen developer. You're able to use those features. Citizen developers can uptake and learn Apex very quickly, and you can start building applications in almost no time at all with almost no code. And I'm going to show you that in just one moment. But it also can scale to the professional developer, including the line of business developer and data scientists alike. So all of these different types of people can take advantage of Apex in regards to the features that are important to them for their particular use cases. The whole idea is to iterate over apps to reduce the time, cost, and complexity. And that improves the user experience and the capability and success of those apps. The actual architecture is essentially just this. You have the modern web browser, doesn't matter what device, you're actually hitting via URL the middle tier or web server component of this whole infrastructure, which is called ORDS. Oracle REST Data Services. So ORDS is the web server for Apex. Now, it can be leveraged with WebLogic or Apache Tomcat, but at a minimum, whether in Oracle Cloud or on premises, if you're talking about using Apex, you're going to be using ORDS.
And
So
I just uploaded into the chat a link to our Apex best practices architecture. And also, if you want to run the ORDS with Tomcat, or you want to run the ORDS in a high availability mode, there is also a link from our architecture center. And one little hint, please. I think Ettore is going crazy because all the questions, please put them in the Q&A, not in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia.
Yeah, we take for granted when we're trying to run these different webinars that when it goes in the chat, we lose track of them because it scrolls up really quickly, and the Q&A helps organize it so that our panelists can switch back and forth and mark them as answered. So please make sure you use that Q&A for your questions. And we'll have a little bit of time in between some of this and towards the end to answer all your open questions if they haven't been answered. So we'll come back to that if that's the case. But this architecture diagram also shows that Apex is in Oracle database, right? So it's a very key takeaway. Anything that you have that's local to that database, or any data that can be accessed from this database to an external database via DB links, is almost all native to that instance of Apex. So you can configure these components, whether it's a report, a form, or map, to interact with that data over DB link effortlessly. However, you're not limited to just the data in Oracle database. You can use Apex with data from Microsoft SQL Server. You can use Apex with data from Mongo. You can use data with Apex with any other third-party data source, any database, as long as it has a published REST API. Because in 2018, that was one of the releases we had where we made Apex use REST configurations with no code. So now all you need is to configure REST endpoints in your Apex app, and you're able to work with any of those data sources based on those REST interfaces and APIs that may be available. So that's just a tremendous opportunity. We even made it better where instead of always going over REST, you can actually work with a synchronized local table of data based on that REST source that can be refreshed on demand, just like a materialized view, but a little bit more flexible overall. And to your end users, all they see is a tremendously world-class application that allows them to interact with the data. They don't even know that the data is coming or going over REST. So you can develop these apps on cloud or on premises. It doesn't matter. In fact, the various conferences I've been to, I've literally last minute been working on Apex applications at 30,000 feet on an airplane that did not have internet because I have Oracle database on my laptop, and I'm able to do the Apex development. When I'm done, I export that app, and then when I'm back on the internet, I can post that to my cloud instance and have it made available for demo purposes. You can't do that with many other platforms at all. But of course, that whole idea of even on-prem, right? It's not just about being on an airplane, but you could have developers working on-prem and pushing stuff to the cloud in their development pipeline if they chose to. So now, back to the fun. I want to actually show you what it's all about when we're talking about developing an app from scratch. So you do see I have a bunch of apps here. I did run one of them. That was 193.822 in this tab here. I'm going to close that tab. And I want to show you how to build an app from scratch. Imagine for a moment I had not shown you that demo. I'm going to create an app using the create option. In Apex 23.2, there are a bunch of different options of creating apps. You can create a blank one. You can create an app from the gallery. You can copy an existing app with a different name for the purpose of maybe making changes to it, or I can create an app from a file. So when I choose create an app from a file, this is where I can show you I have the ability to choose any data that I may have local on my hard drive. Here I have a bunch of data, and you guessed it, I have a New York City high school CSV that's an export from open data on the internet. It was downloaded. I showed it to you in Excel, but I'm pointing this file or Apex to this file to bring it into Oracle database. I'm going to create a new table, which is a construct of Oracle database. So this is a table called schools. Apex has identified the rows and columns from that CSV. I'm going to hit load data. So any data set you may have, you can experiment with Apex on apex.oracle.com today with your own workspace and do exactly what I'm doing here. We can see that this table schools was recreated with 427 rows, and I'm presented with the option to create an application. So when I hit create application, this is where the real magic happens. So although this is not AI, right? Not artificial intelligence at all here. Imagine where we could take this if we were to leverage the product itself of Apex in using AI to a further extent. The way this blueprint works, it's a wizard, and it basically has looked at the data and has decided that these are the kinds of pages that we can start with. It's very boilerplate. It's not very creative, but there's a home page, a dashboard that is configured with some charts, a search page, which is based on that faceted search that I showed you earlier, that interactive report with another page that is a form, all based on the school's data, right? I could give it a name. I could change my icon. I could even change the appearance. We know that that boring look of the white Apex look and feel, that's called the Vita. It's just a little bit older now. It's a few years old, but maybe we want to do a dark mode. We could change that here. There's even Redwood Light as another theme. And we could even customize a number of different things at this stage. I could even
And you
change
can
the number.
also change it later. It's
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
it's
the
not
power.
that you do this now and then you can never change it. No, you can change it later as well.
Just, and this is what the best part of it all is, that I don't even care how it's going to get my dashboard data. It's just going to do it for me. No code at all. There's nothing on this page that has anything to do with the SQL statement, no JavaScript, no CSS, no HTML at all. But I do have a further option where I can check all these different features. Push notifications is one of them. Being able to install a progressive web app is another. Activity reporting, feedback. Just by checking these boxes, when I hit the button create application down here, extra pages will be created to offer those features to my application. All I have to do now is hit create application. So if you imagine I hadn't explained this to you, if you just knew you had this data in your spreadsheet and you wanted to build an app from it, you go here, you load the data into a table, you hit create app, you're done inside of 30 seconds. And what we are looking at here is 30 pages that have been built out based on pointing only that data set, that school's data, into a table and telling Apex to build an app from it. Here are the original 5 pages. The homepage, dashboard, school search page. That's one with a faceted search. Here's the one with the interactive report. And here is the form, the school form. All these other pages are a feature that have to do with the feature I chose. So whether it was a PWA, push notifications, those features all required certain extra pages to be created. But I can hit run application right away. I'm going to credential in those same credentials I use in my workspace. And every Apex app by default is secure. And now I'm looking at that same app. And if you don't believe me that it's a different app that I just created from scratch, notice how there's no map page, right? We're going to create that map page in just a moment. But I can now see for the first time, I took data from scratch, built an app from scratch. It has 30 pages. And at the bottom here, I see this developer toolbar, and I'm currently on page 1, which is that navigation. I only see this developer toolbar because I'm logged in another tab into Apex with the IDE. So as a developer, I see this bar. Users don't see it. But as I navigate to the dashboard page, I see those 4 charts. I can see my developer toolbar is now showing that I'm on page 2. If I go to the school search, I'm now on page 3, and so forth. You see how that all works. In fact, if I go to the feedback option up here, when I open up this dialog to say, I love this app, right, as an end user, this is actually page 10,050. So you get that idea. So I'll go ahead and submit my feedback. Not worry about that. So
yeah, so you can customize it a lot. You can even bring in some CSS formats for your own skin.
yeah, we could even change the look and feel. There's a whole theme roller feature in here. I can go in the theme roller, change my theme from Vita light to Vita dark just by a couple mouse clicks. And I hit save, and my whole app is now reskinned in this dark look. And I didn't have to mess with any CSS at all. So that's using theme roller as a developer. Now that this has been saved, another user that were to hit this app would see all that change been made. But let's start getting under the hood. Let's start building our path to showing you how this could be leveraged with AI. But for now, these are 4 components on the page, 4 different charts. And what I want to show you is, let's put our developer hat on. Instead of just being a user of the app, as a developer, I've decided this neighborhood chart is not suitable as a bar. I want to change it to a pie chart. This method chart doesn't mean much to me, doesn't offer much value. I'm going to remove it. So how does an Apex developer do that? So as Sonia mentioned, we just created this app quickly, but we can make changes. So how do we do that? From the developer toolbar, I have the ability to quickly jump into Apex to edit a page. If I click this button down here, it's the same as being here and drilling down into the icon for page 2. I'm going to use this button for page 2. That means edit page 2. And for the first time in this column discussion, we are seeing what we call the Apex Page Designer. It has a rendering tree on the left showing the hierarchy of all the page components. I can see the different charts that are already laid out. And as I navigate and click on each of these, you'll see that not only does the relevant thing get highlighted in the rendering tree, but on the right side, I see the region parameters all change as well to reflect that particular one that's selected. This is where all the declarative features are in Page Designer for that particular page component. So I'd mentioned I don't want this method chart. I'm going to click on it and hit the delete key. It's gone. I'm looking at the neighborhood chart right over here that is currently bar. Back in Page Designer, I see it is indeed a type chart out of many different page components, but I have an attributes tab and it is defined as type bar. I can make the change to pi. Now that that is done, I can save and run. By doing save and run at this point, the page was refreshed, and I can see just by making that declarative change, I now have this new rich chart and its features, and I've also removed that other chart. And this is how we iterate over Apex development. Further, I want to take it one step beyond, and I want to add that map page that doesn't currently exist. How would I do that? Now, I did glance over the data in Excel, but we do have latitude and longitude columns that were brought into that table. So what I want to do in Page Designer is I'm going to navigate to the top level. I can see all my existing pages, and that's what I just demonstrated for you here, but there is no map page. So I'm going to hit Create Page. Another wizard. So bear in mind, maybe one day with AI, this becomes even easier. But right now, the way the product works is I hit Create Page. I can then choose Map, and I can define certain things like map. That's the name of the title. I'm going to specify my table object, which is schools. Notice it could be a REST data source. So if I had EBS, if I had some other third-party tool that had a published API that was available, I could create a REST data source in this instance of Apex with credentials and then be able to use that data to build a map or any other report on top of.
Yes, I just published a small article on how to start with REST API endpoints. It's called Do It Yourself with REST. So yeah, just published on LinkedIn.
I would definitely put those links in the chat so everyone has quick access to it, because you're a rock star when it comes to some of those blogs, I tell you. So here on the Create Map Wizard, I have very few choices. I'm going to do a point type map based on 2 numeric columns. And what I'm doing here is I'm mapping columns to features. And this is the declarative way. And I just did that backwards. So let me make sure longitude to longitude and latitude to latitude. If I had those backwards, points on the map would look a little strange, but that could be changed even afterwards. My tooltip, I want to be school name, and I want it to be a faceted search page as well to at least give me the starting point. I hit Create Page. That page is now created. I'm brought into Page Designer. I can see the map component is down here. It has layers. It's based on the schools table. I'm just going to hit save and run. Having done that, I see a new navigation option in the menu already added. I'm now looking at a new map that I created that's in dark mode that has the school name highlighted when I mouse over it. I can see that it also has a faceted search because that was an option. I can type King and hit enter, and my data is now filtered down to those records or points on the map with King. So that whole interactivity is all based on the magic of a lot of JavaScript, HTML, and CSS coming together. And for the last part on this, I want to add another facet on this map page. How does an Apex developer do that? So I'm looking at the rendering tree. I see on the left side, I have my faceted search. I see that I have one facet, which is a search, but I can right click on this stuff on the rendering tree and choose, for example, create facet. By default, it's called new. I'm on page 6, so that's the naming convention, but I'm going to type borough. So borough is a geographic organization of area, and boroughs in New York City are identified by name, and there are various schools in various boroughs. But I'm just configuring a list of distinct values for borough as my facet. I hit save and run. I now see that this facet has been added with all that rich goodness, computing statistics, having the ability to filter and search and interact with it. I can even do another chart on top of this if I wanted to, right? Very, very cool. I could even clear that checkbox and add all of them back into the map and chart. So there's that bar chart, and here's that pie chart. And that's an end user feature that I, as an Apex developer, configured with no code at all. But we know there's code, right? On this map page, we know there's code. On the, if we navigate back to the dashboard, we know there is code, but I didn't have to work with it. And from this perspective, let's focus on page 2 again and go back and look at that pie chart. That pie chart is called Burrow, and we see that there's a series defined. And when I click on here, you see a query. So this is what that wizard, that blueprint wizard created for us, was a select statement, right? So fortunately, creating a proof of concept app used based on data doesn't really require any SQL knowledge. But as a developer, I may need to tinker with this more. I may need to embellish it, change the order. It's basically being ordered by the number of count. I could even copy this to my clipboard, use another feature of Apex called SQL Workshop, SQL Commands, and I can show you that this query actually runs against my data. If I run this, I can now see the results. So all this result is actually packaged in a JSON payload that comes from the Oracle database down to the client and is rendered in this chart, which is called an Oracle Jet chart, as its payload for data.
By the way, it's always good to test your SQL in the SQL commands. So this is how I normally write them there, and then it's working, and then I pass them over to the page.
Exactly. See how it's got the highest number first? If I want to order it differently, I could go by descending, or excuse me, instead of descending, do ascending. And then you can see now it's ordered from smallest to highest. So it allows you to experiment with it. And then I could take that query and copy it back to my page and then save it if I wished, and then my app would be using it. But imagine if you didn't have to worry about all the syntax of SQL. Oracle syntax for SQL is quite in-depth, and it's very, very, very powerful, but it could take some time to learn. And when it comes to AI, that's where we're working to embellish it. So we have just seen creating that simple app that is just the tip of the iceberg. We can actually delve under the hood into every one of those components and customize them extensively. But why use low code in Oracle Apex overall? Because as you just saw, we are able to build apps faster. You can deliver that greater quality and consistency for every app. And you can also reduce the development costs and focus on business requirements. And that whole map, that whole faceted search, all those features were available before they were made native to Apex, but they required a lot of JavaScript. They required a lot of code to maintain. And now as developers, we can just focus on the business requirements and make it work and not have to worry about how all that works. The use cases are wide and far. You can build these new or extend existing enterprise apps. You can turn spreadsheets into apps, just as I just showed you. In fact, what we just did in building that New York City High Schools app, that is based on one of our hands-on labs. And I'll link that to you in the chat and show you in just a little bit. But we have several hands-on labs available on our website for building apps and learning Apex, in addition to training options.
And we have the App in a Day program running, and where we do a lot of these stuffs as well. And by the way, my favorite use case is always the use cases where I integrate Apex with AI. So we have a couple of great customers. Watch out to an EBU or whatever, and you can always see they integrated it already. And we recently also launched a couple of more services for like the AI speech and language services, where you can always easily integrate via REST API calls to your Apex app.
And AI vision is a cool case. I mean, of course, everyone's seen chatbots, right? That's not new, but every one of those examples that pops in your mind, you can use Apex to leverage those features wherever that feature may reside. And of course, the features we're talking about largely today are those that are available in Oracle Cloud, which includes a big suite of different AI features and functionality, which is all based on those REST APIs. And I'm going to go behind the scenes on that as we demonstrate some of this in a few moments. But bottom line is, and it's a common thing, people say, well, can I do this in Apex? Can Apex do that? It's not can, it's how would we do this in Apex? So you want to do AI in Apex? Well, how? It's not can it? Well, of course you can. It's on the web. If you think of something, well, can it do this? Well, is someone already doing it on the web? Is somebody already doing it in an app? Then odds are you can do it in Apex almost as easily as many of the things I've just shown you. So Apex, as reiterating the statement that it's a no-cost, fully supported feature of Oracle database. There are no limits and no extra costs, and it's free on Oracle Cloud with the always free services, which is great for developers learning how to use Apex. And of course, the big statement about being available across 40-odd regions around the world is huge for many use cases and customers. But now, the meat of all of this, I've shown you an app, I've built that app, but what would it look like if we could extend that app with low code and AI?
I'm
And
so
that's what I want to
nervous.
that's what I want to talk a little bit about now, but let's set this up so you have a better understanding of what the approach is all about. And I just saw one out of the corner of my eye, sitters ask, can we use a custom map server URL? Yes, with Apex 23.2. Each one of these details has a lot to learn about, and more or less, yes. Okay, so building an Apex app with AI and low code is based on what we've layered up till now. It's still based on this high school data set. Imagine the Empire State Building is your home address. I don't even know if they have residential apartments in the Empire State Building or not, but that's going to be our home address in this demonstration. But for New York City residents, they may wish to research and apply to high schools for their children. I may have a son or daughter, they're interested in going to one of these schools, but we know that we have to apply, right? And be reviewed for the fitness for our student to be accepted into the school. All these different criteria may come into play, having to do with, what kind of sports are available for girls, what kind of academics do they specialize in, and so forth, right? All these are different things that you could ask in terms of questions. So what this tool will do and demonstrate is the ability to search for these high schools based on that criteria. We'll be able to display and interact with these schools on a map and use generative AI to apply to these schools. We can research and have these questions answered, but what if we want to be able to actually apply for our son or daughter to be admitted to one of these schools or considered for admission? That would almost always require the generation of some kind of letter, right? To whom it may concern, my son Mary, or sorry, my son Mary, my daughter Mary, or my son Marvin is interested in attending your school for these reasons. And how would that letter get created? And that's where we actually leverage a generative AI service from Oracle Cloud in this Apex application. And the way it looks is this, and I'm going to switch over to it in a moment. It's very similar to what we demonstrated up to now. We have what's called a cards region on one side or one tab, and we have the list of different schools shown. We could switch over to a map and show you the map view that you've already seen, but we have two buttons that a parent could exercise. So if I'm logged in as John Doe, as a parent, I could ask questions and interactively get answers back using this generative AI service. I could also then click the apply button and have the opportunity to specify which son or daughter and generate a letter and have that letter get generated. And the whole activity of this is all based on an AI service available in Oracle Cloud, but it could be any other AI service out there. Right? It's not limited only to what's in Oracle database or Oracle Cloud. It comes back to what I said earlier in that if you have access to a REST API, maybe you have to sign up and get an access token, you can configure that REST endpoint to be used in your application. So let's switch over and demonstrate that now. So I'm going to go ahead and close the old app. That's pages under here. Do know that on our website, we do have on apexoracle.com Apex and AI equals awesome. It talks about the AI infrastructure and where we're going with AI assisted development and how AI powered apps can do their magic. And that's all available under the homepage from platform to Apex and AI, which brings me to this instance, which has now expired because I talked too much. So let me log back in. One moment. This is a
But I
totally
see
different
your
instance.
passion in your talking, I love this.
It's just so much fun. So here I'm in a cloud instance, right, on Oracle Cloud, and it's a version of Apex where I have an app, and that app is this high schools app that I showed you in screenshots. But I've already signed out, so I got to log in again. I'm going to log in as John.Doe as a parent. So now I'm in as John Doe. I'm the parent. I have a son or daughter. I wish to utilize the different features of this Apex app. I can see that there is two tabs. This is the cards tab of all the different schools, right? Same data, just a different representation. There's a map. I can see where I live here at the Empire State Building. I can zoom in, and maybe I want to reduce my search based on the distance. So I've just reduced my search within 5 miles, right? So all these schools are now within 5 miles of the Empire State Building. This is not AI yet. This is a standard feature of Oracle Spatial and some of the many features in Oracle Database, but it's being leveraged in Apex. And I can see that my list of schools has changed too. I don't have as many, not 426. There's 145, but maybe I want to reduce my choices down to computer science and technology. Or maybe I want to do science and math. In science and math, I now see I've reduced my school down to Young Women's Leadership School. Well, maybe now is the time to start asking some questions. So what I want to do here, give me one moment, is apologize here. Wow, I just can't seem to find it. Okay, so I'm going to ask some questions. So now I'm on another page in Apex and realize, just like earlier, I can see the developer toolbar because I'm logged into the builder, and this is page 6. On page 6, the whole idea here is I can ask a question. What PSAL schools or sports are available for girls? And PSAL is a special thing in New York. It has to do with the different sports. And I'm just asking a generic question. And this is where we're utilizing AI for the first time in Apex. When I submit this, what's actually happening in the Apex app is a prompt is generated in a context that is then submitted to that REST endpoint in Oracle Cloud to the Cohere large language model to interpret from that prompt and the data points that I've given it what can be answered based on this question I presented. So what subjects are available? I'm able to continuously ask different questions. And in this case, that one didn't have anything found. But as I train the model and give it more information, you'll be able to see different answers that come back. The point is not how well this works as a large language model, because that's the service and how we're configuring the different prompts, but the context and the prompt is based on some things that are happening in this Apex app, which is built around some code and some training material. So this is actually what is sent in the context over to the large language model via a REST endpoint. And based on my question and how the large language model assesses this context, that's what spits out the answer based on the questions I'm providing. And I'm going to show you how this is wired up behind the scenes once we go to the next step. Maybe this is a good fit for me. I like this school. I now choose to apply. So I can see that the parent name is John Doe. This is my email. I can now specify my student name, and I now have the ability to generate a letter. So similarly, a context and prompt is put together in Apex with a little bit of code and then shipped off to that REST endpoint, where now this letter comes back from that service, and it's based on some of the information I provided. The school, the question I asked, I'm interested in sports, and all that comes together for an answer that is now a letter that I could edit if I chose to. Now, this demonstration app also has a workflow built into it, so I could choose to send the application, or I could choose to generate another letter. In sending the application, it goes off, an email is sent, and then an administrator could log in and evaluate that letter for fitness and make a determination of whether that student is approved or not. But I'm just going to go ahead and send this off, and we're going to talk a little bit about more behind the scenes of what's happening here in this particular application. This is a human task list here. I see I, as John Doe, as a parent, have submitted for my daughter, Mary, this particular application. But as an administrator, I could log in and then review this for its fitness and approve it. Not going to go that far into it because I want to show you how this app works. So if I go back to my search and apply, I can see that this is my pending submission for the Young Women's Leadership School. I can still go back and ask questions if I wish. I can see that this is my pending application. It has not been approved. But how does this all work? So ignore my information not found because I didn't enter the prompt right. I was looking for my other page where I have a list of questions, and Zoom is sitting on top of it, so I wasn't able to find it easily. So I would have had better, more pointed questions. But at the end of the day, in Apex, this is wired up in a particular way, and that's what the takeaway is here. If I edit page 6 and I'm brought to Page Designer, as we've learned about, Page Designer now has all these different page components laid out on it, including the button that allows me to run this process for the question, something that's has a page item that stores the context. There's actually some processes to initialize a few things, right? Very little bit of code, but ultimately we have a page process that when this button here is clicked based on my question, things happen. And that's based on this page process where there's a prepare prompt, there's a generative AI call with parameters, and there's a response handling. And today in Apex, this is not smooth, I would say. We would like to make it so it's declarative, so you don't have to do any of this preparing of a prompt. But there is today a little bit of code necessary to do a final prompt to be as a parameter that's sent over that REST endpoint, that request. That assembles some of the page items and assembles it based on the learning model's requirements. From there, that would be the prompt that goes. The generative AI call is based on a REST source defined in this Apex app. And then when a response is received, there's a little bit of code that parses that out of the JSON for display in this app. But to get this configuration for the generative AI call, which we see here as a REST source, that means I have to go to shared components within this Apex app. So in the data sources, we have it configured with the REST data sources shown here. There's only one. So these two different use cases use the same data source. When I dive into this, I see there's one that I created called Generative AI with this endpoint URL. It does have authentication. When I click on this and drill in, I see the UI presented in Apex for the no-code configuration of this REST endpoint. So I've got a remote server. It's got a path prefix for what it's going to generate. It's got credentials that are configured, and I can see there's a data profile that's configured. But all of this is done with no code. And before release of Apex 18.1, where a lot of this became available in terms of REST configuration, you had to do it with all raw PL SQL and the APIs all server side to make that work. And we just made it so much easier to interact with these days.
Yes, as soon as you have the REST point and the web credentials, it's up and running.
Right.
I
So
love
that's
it.
page, yeah, that's page 6. So the apply page is page 7, but this is where I actually have that generate the letter. This is a little bit more complex. So if I go to page 7 behind the scenes, we will see that there's the same process for the AI call where there's a prepare prompt, parse the response. The generative AI calls the same one, same name, but what makes this different is the prompt. So I can see there's a bunch of PL SQL that we're currently using today, and this is where we hope a future release of Apex would make this easier. But what's happening is this is generating the prompt based on some of the answers or choices we made in the search, right? We could have specified the attendance rate that was important. We could have specified a particular subject interest was important, and that gets embellished in the prompt as it's sent to the AI service. But it's otherwise exactly the same in terms of what's being processed as a result. So some of these things will get a lot easier to work with in a future release of Apex when you want to use AI natively. But the product as Apex as a platform is concerned, you can develop any of these features to any degree as long as you are working within the expectations of that API. So it doesn't matter whether it's Cohere, Hugging Face, ChatGPT, it doesn't matter. You learn a little bit about that API, you configure the REST data source in Apex, and you just have to configure the interactivity of that prompt based on the parsing or the combining of data to be shipped off with that payload when the REST call is made. And then what you do with it is up to you, right? This particular page having this UI, presenting the student name, presenting this information in a particular text area, all that becomes really easy to do. So now give me a moment. The takeaway on this is, as you see here, where did it go? And I want to just, let me get back signed into VPN so I can show you the other part of the Apex development that we're taking as a roadmap action with AI. And I'm going to sign back in the VPN to show that to you. And it'd be really nice if I could see where that login went.
So I'm reminding you now of going back to the VPN, okay?
Yeah, I'm trying to, Zoom has taken over my screen here. Give me a second. I can't find it. Oh, there it is. Connecting now. So I might drop for just a moment. I guess I gotta type a password, huh? Apologies for that. Early morning for me here, so I left the VPN on overnight and it timed out. And even though I said, hey, remind me about VPN, Sonia, I forgot to check how many more minutes were left available. It's now connecting.
It's the same with the Zoom upgrade. It comes whenever you don't need it.
Oh, I know. It's crazy. It should be a momentary drop.
No worries, guys. In the meantime, I just remembered that the session is recorded, so we are going to share the recording, the slides, all the useful resource in a thank you mail that will come in the upcoming days. And there are tons of questions that are coming. Thanks for your engagement and interaction. Thanks to the panelists. If you are not getting the answer, we will come with the answer pretty soon.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you for that, Tor. I'm just almost at the end of the demonstration with the AI stuff, finish up the slides, and we'll have time for questions. So I'm on a different instance. I had to get on VPN to show this to you because this is product development. And this is just a demonstration of our vision of where we expect to see the future releases of Apex to come in terms of what you can do and expect as an Apex developer. So I showed you an app that allowed us to ask questions. You could play with this. There's so many different things you can do with this, right? So don't limit your imagination to what the conclusions are here. But from the perspective of an application, imagine I'm creating a page. The same high schools app, same schools, data, and everything else, and not create an app, excuse me. I want to create a new page. So I dive into my app, and I want to hit create page. I did this with creating a map, right? So remember earlier, I was like, imagine that you could do something different with respect to AI. Well, instead of a map, I want to create a chart. And typically, when I'm creating a chart, maybe it's going to be a pie chart. I'll just call it chart. And I know that this is based on, actually, it's different here. This one is based on schools. Schools 2 is good. I'm specifying my data source. I am mapping, actually, before when I did my map, I specified the data source, right? I knew what it was. That was fine. I was fine with all the data that came back from it. But imagine, if you will, a SQL query, right? We're looking to make this a little bit easier, but normally this brings up this particular dialogue where you would do select star from, schools, group by, whatever the SQL is. Maybe I can't even remember what the proper syntax is, or if I'm new to Oracle development, right? The database development using Apex, I may not know SQL at all. So show schools grouped by borrow. Maybe that makes sense. That's a natural language statement. I have an Apex Assistant button. When I click this button, in theory, I should be returned a SQL statement. Maybe that's appropriate. Maybe it's not. Maybe I can do show schools grouped by borrow. Give it a little bit more direction.
So Apex is smarter than you think.
Now I have a little bit more going on where it's selecting the borrow, very similar to what I demonstrated before, but it's come back from the AI service where it should be validated. And now I can hit next. And then I just do my mapping. And then I hit create page. So normally today, this would require that strict SQL data entry if you don't know it, right? If you want to be very specific about it. But now that I've used that Apex Assistant and I credential in, I will now see a chart that results from a query that I actually did not have to create should I chose that I didn't want to. I can still make changes to that query. I could ask it more questions, more natural language questions that try to experiment with different data. And as Sonia pointed out earlier, and I demonstrated, you could copy that query and run it in SQL commands to see what those result sets are. But the whole idea of having a page where I have SQL query definitions to have this Apex Assistant feature means you're able to tweak and examine different scenarios with natural language to build those complex SQL statements to end up with different result sets for the different components with Apex. So it's not just for reports and charts, but it could be for maps and all these other different features that are available. And this is just the direction we hope to take Apex on a future release of Apex with an Apex Assistant. And imagine that create page, right? If I go back, and I'm not going to demonstrate in great detail, but if you imagine create page, that I could be prompted to enter natural language. I want show me a dashboard with some data entry and a faceted search. Boom. Have it created without having to worry about all that configuration. That's where we're hoping to take the product. When it comes to creating an application from scratch, like I did from a spreadsheet, maybe there are other natural language approaches. Maybe I could even look at the AI perspective of saying, I have all these different tables. I have products, I have product descriptions, I have the ability to record invoices and do sales. Build me an app that gives me that user interface and have all those pages built out. That is the direction we hope to bring Apex into with the use of AI and all the features that Oracle Cloud offers us in terms of what we can do with Apex. So it's just really exciting that what we're going to be able to do here. So those are pretty much all the takeaways. The AI assistant is not currently available in Apex yet today, but it is coming. The takeaways, as we just described, all kinds of different neat features you can expose to your users with very little code. You can embellish it with higher code and go to that enterprise extent of making your app extremely capable and extremely scalable and secure, and having all the rich features that are available on the internet today. But you might be thinking to yourself, well, that's well and great. Go ahead, Sonia.
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
You know, when you are thinking back of your experiences within Apex in the last year, especially the last year, because there was so many new features and things coming out, what was your greatest experience you have? I mean, Cloud World was amazing. Was there anything great?
Well, to be honest, I don't know that it helps most of you over in Europe or over on that side of the world, but here in the US, we have an annual conference. It's called Kscope. It's offered by ODTUG, and we were there. The Apex team was there, and we offered a new session called Boot Camp. And the whole boot camp was where people were able to attend and be part of a 2-day boot camp where we specifically, as the Apex team, presented our various subject matter and talked about Apex and gave them an opportunity to work through a hands-on lab and experience what it is like to be an Apex developer for those 2 days. And it was a great success. You know, in addition to all the sessions and all the different Apex content and obviously the exhibit hall, I mean, we had a great floor space in the exhibit hall, and we were able to talk to customers from around the world, right? So I know that we had a lot of people from Belgium, Switzerland, the UK, Germany even, that came over to visit Kscope in the US this past summer. And Kscope 24 is actually going to be in Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, I was so jealous. I want to be there next year as well.
Oh,
It was
it was so much
amazing.
fun.
Yeah,
And
I saw the
best part
pictures.
of it all was just being able to meet all these different people from all around the world that represent various companies that use Apex for different needs that we never even knew about. I mean, we could say there are, you know, X number of Apex developers or customers using Apex, but the number is much, much higher because there's so many people that we don't know that are using Apex unless they tell us. So the big thing moving forward on this is, well, how do you learn more? How do you become that citizen developer or even that professional developer using Apex? We have the foundations course, which is available. It's a few hours of training. It allows you to hit the ground running after you've taken all the different courses and played with that content. And then you can start building Apex apps, right? You can go back to your boss and say, hey, look at what I can do in Apex with our data. But if you want to be really serious about it and learn how to be a professional Apex developer and get that certification badge from Oracle University, we do offer a professional developer course, which is about 12 or 13 hours. You don't need to take both of these. If you want to be that professional developer, jump right in to the professional developer course. Certification is available on Oracle University, and at this time, there's a small fee associated with that. But then that becomes something that no one can take from you. No one can take your skills and experience away from you, regardless of what your career choice and path will be in the future. So being certified in Apex, even at Apex 23, still applies. I am officially certified in Apex 18. I took the certification test back at a Kscope event in 2018, and that test was a little bit tricky. If you're just someone who breezes through things, you're not going to breeze through this certification. You have to do the work. You have to learn how to use Apex, and you will pass the test if you've been diligent about it and paid attention to the content and done the hands-on labs. From there, just know we host an Apex office hours because we just released Apex 23.2 recently. We had a 5-part series. Most of those episodes should be available on demand now, and you can review what we presented and what the actual Apex product development team members created. They created features. They are on an office hours where they specialize in that feature and they talk about it and what you can do with that feature. Further, as we go over the months coming, we're going to have new office hours that have to do with different features. As you can see back from June, we were talking about Apex 23.1 and server-side JavaScript, explore the power of Graal VM and MLE, right? So above and beyond AI, above and beyond low code or no code app development, all these other concepts around app development in general apply to Apex development. So we try to focus on a lot of that content. We also have a business innovation with Apex series. As a matter of fact, it's today that we're doing another series that's being broadcast live, just like this, another webinar. But we're meeting with customers that are talking about their success using Apex for their use cases, not the other way around. So it's not us bragging about maps or bragging about interactive report or faceted search or AI. It's customers showing what they've done with Apex using these features themselves. So we have a lot of these different sessions that are already recorded, and we're going to continue to offer those webcasts going on forward. We do have a community forum, if you're not aware, for the developer community. If you go to apex.oracle.com/forum, Apex and support in your Apex development endeavors has a category. You can go there and create new posts. You can even research existing posts, or maybe you have the skills or knowledge to answer some questions that other people have asked. But the important takeaway on this is a very large app, and it is itself an Apex app. It used to be a vanilla forms, and it got migrated to being an Apex project for the Apex team last year. And it was migrated to a production ready app with all that old data migrated into this Apex application. So this is a good example of what the tip of the iceberg could be for an enterprise app, because it's got millions of posts across hundreds of different categories with thousands of users and thousands of replies from the last number of years. Furthermore, if you're an Apex developer or you become an Apex developer and you're thinking to yourself, it would be great if Apex had this feature, you can go to the Apex Ideas app and see if anybody else has suggested that feature and vote on it. Or you could submit a new feature request yourself, and maybe it's going to be the next great new feature of Apex 25.1 or 25.2. Who knows? The point is, this is the tool for you as the community to be able to log in and see what's going on and help shape our roadmap for the product. A lot of these features have been delivered over the years, but the more important takeaway on this is I like to brag about this app because I made this app. This is my one and only public Apex application that I've made since being at Oracle. I mean, I've made many apps, right? But they're all internal use only. But this is a public visible application, and I'm just proud about it because it was a lot of effort. I need to update it for the new features of Apex 23.1, including the new workflow. Some of those different features I want to bring to the surface, including push notifications. Push notifications aren't available in this app, but that's for me to figure out and learn how to do myself.
I haven't known that you built this app. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, this is my app.
Yeah, but then I have another question on you. Sure. If you could innovate one more feature into that or into Apex, what would this be, Jason?
You mean myself, if I had any ideas of what I wanted Apex to do?
Yeah, I just developed an app I love, and I showed a Cloud World because I love to have smart hashtags. I'm posting a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, and I always got confused which hashtag to use or not. So I'm uploading pictures into my Apex app and generate my own hashtags with that.
Let me tell you, and let me tell you a little bit about what I'm thinking here. And this is top secret. I know this is a recording, but I trust 600 odd people that are on aren't going to share this information with anyone. But I would really like the Ideas app to show a world map and show where all these ideas are coming from. Are the most popular ideas coming from Europe? Are the most popular ideas coming from the US? I don't know, but I would like to know that. And I wish that we had that feature out of the box in Apex to show flags. Show me the US flag. Show me the UK Union flag, right? Show me the German flag. I want to see it on the map and not have to worry about where I'm getting those flag images from or how to figure out how to put it on the map, right? Give me that out of the box. Maybe that'll come one day. It's not currently available. It's not currently available in the Ideas app, but I did start building that functionality in this app so we could see where everybody is on the map, but it's kind of hidden right now. Shh, don't tell anybody.
Why not?
Take away also the knowledge that what we did with this New York City schools data set is a hands-on lab. So it's actually our spreadsheet lab. And if you look on our website, let me jump back real quick. If you go to apex.oracle.com and go to learn and tutorials, we have various hands-on labs. The build a social media app is basically like Instagram, right? How would you build an application like that? There's a lot of Apex features in there. Building a movies watch list application is actually more of a exercise of using a REST data source, just like the AI demo I did today. It does not use AI, but it's the same process, the same idea. Building a starter online shopping app is another one. and of course, this spreadsheet lab. So if you wanted to exercise this New York City school data set yourself, you could go and exercise this lab and follow through all the steps and learn quite a bit about Apex because it goes way further into the details. But one last personal plug, build a social media app. I made this hands-on lab. This is the one that I made myself. I was really excited to do it because it demonstrates a lot of concepts in Apex, like a single page application, putting people's locations on a map. Where did that comment come from? Where on the map? All these different things, leveraging mobile features, PWA features. It's just a lot of fun to bring it all together and covers a lot of development concepts in Apex, including custom JavaScript and more. And especially working with blobs, because when you're using a social media app like Instagram, it's all about taking that picture and uploading it. And that lab covers a lot of that content.
Should I tell you that my app I built my idea came from that, I have seen we can now connect to social apps, and I'm like, wow, I have to test this with LinkedIn.
It's super cool. Yeah, super cool. So customer highlights, just to give you a quick summary. I mean, you name it, right? We're the world's most popular low-code platform. We run an Oracle database, we run an Oracle Cloud, and wherever you have Oracle database. And every logo seen here is a customer representative of teams of the Apex developers developing apps for their use in their infrastructure from one form or another. It's just a tremendous list. We have thousands, right? Tens of thousands of customers likely, and this is just a small subset. So I'd like to turn over to Sonia to talk about App in a Day before we conclude and entertain opportunities for questions. We do have a stop here in a few minutes for the actual 90 minutes of the presentation. I'm happy to stay on for a few minutes to try to cover some of these other questions, but over to you, Sonia, to conclude with App in a Day.
Okay, thanks. I was muted. I don't know. So last but not least, we will talk now about the App in a Day initiative. So with this initiative, we want to work with US customers to build a first MVP, a minimal viable product, based on your idea you have. So you can post your idea on the social showed page from Jason, but you can also reach out to your account team, and then we do an ideation phase. We talk about what's possible, what you can develop with us, and the special thing about this is that we develop together with you. So we will guide you through your idea. We will guide you through the development, and we will build one team together. And then we develop the idea based on your data, based in your tenant. The use case identification and evaluation is an important point in this case. But we will develop this with your data in your environment. And I think that's great learning experience as well. So if you want to have more information about this, reach out to your account team or get connected with us on LinkedIn, and then we can have a talk about this as well. So back to you, Jason. And I think we are mostly there.
So, well, there are many questions. So some people are asking, my questions are not being answered. Sorry, Fernando. I mean, we've answered 76 questions already. So that's quite a bit of questions, a lot of activity. Thank you, team.
Yeah, let's say in this way. First of all, thank you, Sonia, Jason, and thank you, Lajos and Sydney, because the chat and the Q&A were actually on fire. I'm having a commitment with you guys, I mean, our attendees. I'm going to take the note of all the questions that are not answered, and on the Slack channel, I will publish a document with the answer on the question that are still there. Jason, I will ask you, if you go through the more than 50 questions still open that we have, if you can choose a couple, just two that you think that are the one that are available for everyone here, and then we go to wrap up. Okay, so just two, select the one that you prefer.
Well,
okay.
I see one question here. The question is, which config is recommended, DB Link or REST config? I mean, ideally, DB Link is going to be the fastest. It's going to be the most native to Apex, right? It selects star from DB Link dot object. It's a lot easier to use in many cases, but in many cases you can't use DB Link. You have to use REST. So it depends on what your needs are. If the data doesn't change very often at your endpoint, wherever you're pulling the data into your app, then maybe REST is perfectly usable for your users. So it depends. Let's look for another question here.
Yeah.
Can you combine different types of maps into one map? So you can do different map layers. So you could have your base map layer with points, and then you could have another layer with geometry. So for example, during the pandemic response, when we worked on stuff for the US government, for the Department of Health, we had a map that was built that showed the world, and they could zoom into the United States and then see the points of hot spots with actual pins in the map of COVID infections, and then outlines of the US states, and then outlines of the counties within the states, which is all geometry based. So that's just different map layers.
Okay, so guys, join our Slack channel. I will post in the upcoming days the answer with support, of course, of Jason, Sonia, and other guys, the answer to that question. So thank you again, guys. Just an announcement. So for you attending live the session today, the webinar today, we are activating a promo for Oracle Cloud free tier account, so you can test our cloud services, and instead of the regular $300 that you get usually with the regular programs, you are going to get $500 in Oracle Cloud credits. The link, the activation link, will be shared into the thank you mail as well, the recording and the useful resource that I mentioned. So last but not least, Apex artificial intelligence will be main topic also during our Cloud World Tour that is going to happen in the next year. We are close to the end of the year, 2024. We are going to start with Dubai, then Mumbai, London, where registration are already open, so you can get the registration page. I'm also posting here in chat. There is the QR code, so you can register for this in-person event. Other dates are available. We have Sao Paulo. I saw one guy commenting that he is in Brazil. We are going to have also other cities, Singapore, Tokyo. So be tuned and you can check for everything. As I mentioned, we will have content during this event on low-code and artificial intelligence. So that's it from my hand. Thank you again, guys. Today was a very, very well-attended session. Thank for your participation and engagement. And again, I'm sure that Santa is using Apex.
I don't doubt it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So
Checking his list and checking it twice, but with Apex, you'll have to check it once because he can be assured that his data is correct.
I will ask him when I meet him, you know.
have an incredible end of the year with this December. Okay, see you guys. Bye bye.
Thank you, Sonia.
Bye.
Thank you, Tor.
Thank you,
you, everyone, for
Jason.
attending.